Yes, welcome back. This is F a Rap Critic. I'm your boy Malik 16. And no, we may not be pimping, but we definitely living in this space age, AI raps and
Oh yeah.
yeah. But today's a very special day. I got Tennessee's own, your man, your boy from Cultural Hysteria, one half of the dynamic duo that gives you dope content on a weekly basis. Who you be, bro?
Hey man, CJ Williams. Listen, Nashville representative. Currently residing in the A. I appreciate the invite, man, as always. Thank you, bro.
All right. The reason why it's special, we go into that very state to talk about a classic album that came at the turn of the century. We talk about none other than 8 Ball and MJG's In Our Lifetime. This is category 2. We go over the rap performance on this album. If you have not already, take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. Go check out Cultural Hysteria while we at it. And yeah, let's jump into it. The first dimension in category 2 is going to be dimension 1, personality and charisma. What can we say about the levels of personality and charisma exhibited by Mr. Ball and G on this album?
Hey man, it's through the roof, man. I think that's where, and not in an animated fashion, right? I know we, like you said last time I was here, man, I was lucky enough to speak on one of my favorite Outkast projects. And you could say there's maybe a little bit more in terms of animation when it comes to Andre 3000, the changing of voices and things of that nature. So it's not necessarily that, but I think you get that in flows with MJG. He's got a lot of personality. And then just like the poeticness of 8 Ball is just they work so well together and they play off so well off each other. I remember buying this, bro. This was when I was bagging groceries, so I bought this with my own bread. You know what I'm saying? I was excited to cop this, and they had took a break off for a couple of years, so they had kind of got low. I think 8 Ball had did the solo joint, if I'm not mistaken, right before this. He had did Lost.
Yeah, he did a triple album. Yeah,
It was a triple C. I paid $30 for that album.
Yeah. Woo.
But I was looking forward to this, to say, you know what I mean, to kind of speak to it, and they didn't let up, man. The personality, in my opinion, they're very specific to who they are, but it's still Memphis, it's still Southern, but super lyrical, man. So I definitely say it was through the roof on this album for them too.
Wow. One thing I say about all the legendary Southern groups, like all the big ones that always come up when people were talking about them, they show you, if you're not from the South, like someone like me, you get different shades of Southern personalities. The same way Big Boy and Andre are two different types of Southerners, or Willie D and Scarface are two different kinds of Southerners, Pimp and Bun, as different as they come. But here, kind of more complementary than probably all those groups that I named. Not so much in a contrast, more in just like I can't put my finger on how they complement each other, but MJG will do some things. I think he's a little bit more crass and aggressive than Ball, right? Ball is calm, casual, probably watch for a minute before he acts or responds. MJG look like he'll break the glass bottle in a minute. and as you pointed out, there's some choices that they made as we go through the other dimensions that shows you their personality and character. For one, Ball likes to talk more than MJG. Like there's 2 tracks on there where Ball's like talking just at the end of Daylight. That might as well have been its own verse when he's shouting out every city you could think of.
One of my favorites. Right. Yeah, that's a good point.
And then same thing with at the end of We Don't Give a, he's doing a whole Big Rube type poem, but with the stage age pimping element to it. So yeah, you're not going to hear MJG be as gregarious and verbose in talking, but he is on his verses. His verses may feel like he said more than 8 Ball.
Agreed.
He packed so many words in there, but one thing becomes clear: you know where they stand, and they have no problem like laying it out. But MJG is just a little bit more liable to go into like unnecessary description or like unnecessary abrasive language. Yeah,
no doubt.
All right, so on a scale from 1 to 5, what you giving the personality as is displayed on this album?
I'll give it a 4. I'll give it a solid 4 for them.
Cool. That takes us to dimension 2. A complement to the personality question is the suspension of disbelief versus the believability. We can use process of elimination here. This is not a suspension of disbelief album. They're not assuming a role. They're not going into AKAs and characters. They're telling you, no, this is Ball and MJG. Every now and then, you might hear them use their government or pieces of their government. So
True.
It always comes down to the question, how much do they make us believe them on this album?
Yeah, I think that this one more than, well, I'm not going to say more than anyone, but this is a strong project when it comes to believability. Even when it comes to records like Paid Dues, where they speak about the janky deals that they signed coming up, you get one of those. It's always good to get one of those. This is how we got here type joints.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of those. And then even just kind of like, if you want to take it like to the club, like listen to Don't Flex. I can see both of them in the club, cool as hell, while this is playing. And you know, depending on the type of club they are, the type of activities going down, it's very authentic. It's like a strip club song, but it's like mid tempo, almost kind of slow tempo.
Yeah,
and it just fits the brand of the South and how we move a little bit slower. You know what I mean? The pace isn't as fast as, say, a New York or something of that nature, and it fits. And so the believability is there. Nothing here that I'm listening to is a stretch.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even storytelling joint, maybe you know what I'm saying, the armed robbery joint is just some, you know, that's just some storytelling. You know what I mean? Some street shit.
Same with Speed. Yeah. It's like you understand that this is what you're going into when you're going into it. Now, I love what you just said about Don't Flex, because I think Don't Flex is a great showcase of what we were just discussing with the personality. Like Ball's whole verse, he's like, "Quit hawking me, girl. Why you always beeping me 911?" You know, like, chill. I'll tell you when. Right? MJG's like, "What you got, girl?" Like, so it's a little bit like if they were in the club, I picture Ball sitting in the VIP section with the bottles. MJG probably walking around on the prowl.
Yeah, for sure.
Probably on the wall stroking his beard, right? You know, like something's more active when it comes to him. But like you said, all within a believable frame because you can picture it.
Bingo.
Paid Dues, I love how vulnerable, and the fact that they made that choice to put that song early in the album. That's the second song. Because he was like, listen, man, all the vets in the game, listen, don't give up. I feel you. I used to rap over your stuff to get on. And I love what he said about Tennessee, because he was like, I didn't think anybody would hear us from Memphis. Then he said, it's like they didn't recognize Tennessee because they didn't think hip hop was in us. I was like,
tough. And I like that. That's early. That's a good point. It's early in a project, but it kind of sets the tone, because there's a couple of joints that are on that same type of wave, that mid-tempo B-side reflective type joints. There's a couple on here, and I think it sets the tone, and it's called In Our Lifetime. So to me, it just fits the whole kind of theme of the project, coming right after we started this. You know what I mean? Kind of poking their chest out. You know what I mean? So I think that's a good point. You usually don't see a song like that early in the track list. Right. So that's a good call out.
Yeah, and he said, 17, I got my first deal. 18 and a half is when we got our worst deal. Like, pause. So yeah, I mean, with the exception of the two stories that pretty much ask you, I guess this is where suspension of disbelief comes in. If I had to say suspension, is you understand what armed robbery is, because it's an homage to their original armed robbery song, and they're not even on it. And you understand what Speed is as soon as you hear the beat and the sound effects. You're like, okay, this is a story. It's a high imaginative story.
Facts.
So,
and it's pretty clear that that's what that is.
Right. And I love rap like that, where, okay, they don't have to explicitly tell you, but they're doing things in other ways to let you know, all right, you gotta kind of know this is me using creative license. I wish more rappers did that. But what we giving this on a scale from 1 to 5 heartbeats for believability?
Man, I'll go 5, man. I'll put this at the top for everything we laid out.
Nice. All right, that takes us to dimension 3, the delivery and the use of voice. So this is where I get into some of those choices that distinguish them. So, MJG in particular, I know you used the word animated earlier. I think MJG has animated moments, and his version of animation reminds me of like the Pastor Troy school of animation. It gets like gruff and unnecessarily boisterous and kind of charactery because he makes some choices. Like I think of what he did on Don't Flex, where he said something like juicy, big bate balate. Like
yeah.
He puts emphasis in places where he didn't need to.
Yeah.
He does that. You will not get too long of a play from MJG without him doing it somewhere. I'm surprised it took about 3 songs for him to do something like that on this album. But then on that same song, even the way he starts his next verse, he said, "I see your naked ass." Yes. Like it's just why make those vampire type choices? Like Ball is too cool and casual for that. Ball is gonna forever just kind of just sit back and kind of give you game voice.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, man, I think the kind of the duality of those two, man, is kind of what works. And yeah, you're right. MJG, if any one of them is going to go off the edge a little bit, it's going to be MJG. But I'm not gonna lie if I don't say that when that part "I see your naked ass" comes on, I don't recite it. I'd be lying. Like that's
the thing about hip hop. We can say the same thing with 3-6, right? Juicy is more animated than Paul. And when they were a trio or a whole group, everybody still likes Crunchy's parts. You might start off laughing at it, but because it's so crazy, you know, the only drawback I'd say, the effect that MJG has of making those choices sometimes, it doesn't age well. It can come off as corny. If you're new to it, if you're not fully bought into 8-Ball and MJG, you're trying to introduce this to somebody, they're already thinking this, you know, they're like, what are these old heads rapping about? I see your ass.
That's a good point. You're right. That does make it sound a little crazy 20-25 years later. And speaking of 3-6 though, it's funny you mentioned like a Crunchy Black, who I believe is probably the worst rapper of all time. Like
versus Silk the Shocker?
Oh, that Silk is up there too. That's a good point. Because Silk has, in my opinion, he has a classic No Limit album. I'll say that. I say Charge It to the Game is a classic No Limit album, and he's got joints. That's true. He overachieved. We shouldn't even be able to say any of that. That's a good point.
Right. And I mean, if y'all ever needed a more trusted source, this man is a No Limit connoisseur. He is your source for No Limit facts. Yeah, because of that, and you know, he's gonna say his name with that same emphasis, MJG, right? Ball doesn't do that. The most you get Ball acting out tonally is what he does when he's talking. He sounds more like conversational, even when he is talking. Even when he's doing the spoken word, he sounds more conversational than in his verses. There's moments where they kind of sound like each other, depending on how they start their verses, but. You know, there's some choices made. I love what they do on the hooks. When I think of what's the joint? Nobody But Me. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, that's the joint. Yeah, that's on there toward the end.
Yeah, the fact that it's kind of like a singy hook. And it's following that guitar pattern. I'm like, okay, they're showing their dexterity and flexibility. And then. Yeah, we'll talk about more when we get into the flows, but I'm trying to think of anything else in their choices. You know, Ball and G have never been afraid to have mellow kind of cadences and hyped up cadences. Like, get it crunk. They're damn near trying to force the party to start on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
No doubt.
But then you get casual hooks like Love Hurts. And things like that. So
that work very well. Those work.
Yeah. So it always helps. What you giving this on a scale from 1 to 5 for delivery?
I'll go 4. Okay. For sure.
Yeah, 4 sounds fair. Look at me trying to alley-oop it. Dimension 4, speaking of which, the flow. Okay. You can say lots of things about this duo, but one thing you cannot take away from them is that they have flow for days. Just from the beginning, again, if we go back to Paid Dues, you can tell there's a deliberate, intentional offbeat. Speaking of spoken word approach to that. That's a choice. I feel like it took them more work to not be on beat on that song than it would take other rappers to be on beat, because it's like he's delaying the delivery of it. He's like, I worked hard when I did it, and I can't. Like,
Yeah.
And then Ball kind of does the same thing on this verse. But then by the time you get to the end, right, we talk about a song like Nobody But Me. Yeah, I mean, MJG is doing the double time flow.
Yep.
He's damn near Twister on that track.
Yeah.
They do some structural choices. I think of the hook on I Don't Give a... It's what I like to call them the paragraph hooks. Paragraph hooks are what you think of when you think of a song like Quiet Storm by Mobb Deep. It's not a easy call and response, repeat, it's a whole damn, it might as well have been a verse.
Yeah.
That's what I Don't Give is. But they do like an A-B rhyme scheme on the end, because it says something like I'll chop your hand off, something, trying to live it up. And then you don't rhyme those words until like 2 sentences down. It's like something, because I made soft, something, we don't give a... And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's some thought put into that.
Absolutely. And that's, like you said, it's something different, man. And I don't know how long it took them to record this. I know, again, they had taken a couple of years off from making group material. And it feels like thought was put into it and their time was taken with it, man. And I don't know if we get that same feeling today when it comes to a lot of acts, man. Some things can sound rushed. Something, that's why we appreciate, when Kendrick takes a couple of years off. We may not like it,
right?
But traditionally you end up appreciating taking a couple of years off because the projects actually sound like they were crafted.
Yeah,
and that comes with flows and stuff.
This is definitely an old head perspective, because I think about folk like my nephew. My nephew, if somebody didn't drop an album the year after their last album, he's like, damn, where are they? They fell off. I'm like, what? We used to, rappers would take 2-3 years off before.
Facts.
And we love them for it. Like, take your time. How you gonna follow that one up? So
plus, I mean, we had time to ride around to the project, bro. We had the same CD book in the car. You know what I mean? If you had money, you had the 6 CD changer. Straight good for you. And so you had 6 options. Like, I had 1. So and I paid $13.99 plus tax, $15.01. And so I had to, if I didn't like it on the first listen, I had to listen 20 more times. I was getting my $15 worth. You know what I mean? So a lot of this stuff had to marinate.
You hit it right.
That was a good thing too.
You ain't never experienced real musical struggle till you at an intersection having to change your CD with one hand.
Thanks. Hitting the button, switching the CD, doing the whole thing with one hand.
One hand.
Yeah.
So on Do It How It Go, they do line for line for the hook. So their back and forth game is intact here. I love when duos are not afraid. That's how you really know that they didn't lose the magic. That for as many songs as they have, just my verse, your verse, they have joints where they're just going 8 bars, or line for line. So you need that every now and then. I'm thinking some other choices made with flow. They get simple when they need to get simple. I think Get It Crunk is supposed to be a simple song, so it's simple. Love Hurts, they want the words to breathe, so it's straightforward. Belly, straightforward. But then they show off on tracks like We Don't Give a Nobody But Me, and then Pay Dues, and We Started This. Like they there. And then of course, Throw Your Hands.
No, I think I like the balance, and I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but the balance between the two, because MJG will switch a flow up, in the middle of a verse. He'll switch a flow up from song to song, but like it's still in pocket, and he's just versatile, man. It kind of reminds me, or I remember when Ludacris came out, it kind of reminded me of him, how Luda was very intentional about, I'm going to rap this way for 4 bars, then I'm going to rap this way for 4 more. And like, you know what I mean? Like it was, and I was like, yo, that's giving me MJG, because then it sounds unique. They sound different on every one. It doesn't get stale.
Yes.
And he's just a gymnast with that. And you can experiment and roll the dice when at least you have Ball behind you. That's going to be he's going to steady the ship if need be. You know what I mean? For those who would prefer that type of vibe. So, it's just MJG. That was a talent of his, bro.
I couldn't have said it better. And a shout out to you for giving Luda his props, because I mean, I've always used Luda as my default when I'm talking about a flow master.
Man,
you could throw Camp Low in that bag too, but like MJG, there's not a flow that he uses on here that he had no business using. That's something you see sometimes with rappers. They get experimental and it's like, nah, that ain't you. He does every flow he wants to do and makes it very convincing. Like on the track, throw your hands, like even that flow, like it's just, he's doing all these flows before they even became popular flows that other rappers use.
Bingo.
What we give it flow on a scale from 1 to 5?
Man, I'm such a big fan of these two. When it comes to flow, I'm going 5 on this project.
Woo! Yeah.
High praise.
Right, because we didn't even talk about the flow they used on Speed, which requires just that, right? Both of them stepped it up, right? So, okay, that takes us to Dimension 5, the wordplay and bar intent. You got some favorite lines on this album?
Man, listen. 8Ball's verse on We Started This, dog, I can listen to that. And I love MJG's verse. Love it. I love the song. The song is amazing. Everybody's verse is crazy. But Ball's verse is ridiculous. Just from when the mental battle scars polluting my cranium.
Right.
Just that.
Who's
like, damn. Whoa. He done seen some shit. I was like, did you go to war? You know what I'm saying? Are you an Iraq vet? No, it's just like some Streets of Memphis shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, damn. Yeah. And then like pieces all in my mind, but that ain't reality. Yeah. Fuck reconciliation. Niggas don't want no unity, man. Like, he over it. You're like, bro, I done tried. You know what I'm saying? Bro, that verse is crazy to me. Like,
Ball has a little melancholy to his verses, like where MJG's got a like you gonna give me my respect kind of thing. Ball, he always slips in something that's kind of like, damn.
yeah. I can see Ball's like lyrics in like a book. You know what I mean? Like a coffee table book. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know how Pac had the poetry book, Rose the Group from the... I can see in that type of book. Right. And you just read it, but I feel like if this was in a museum, etched in like a statue, people of all cultures would read it and be like, damn. I feel like it would hit like that, bro.
What I also appreciate is that he does have a sense of humor. Or do it how it go. He says, he starts off, I'm the fat one, the skinny nigga MJG. Like, sometimes it don't have to be all these lyrical like flips and dips. It's just you use the right language and your timing was right. It's just that simple. He summed it up.
Yeah. That, man, in a descriptive but obvious manner. Like, it's very simplistic, but it works.
Right. And that's for the new listeners who just jumped on board and were late to the party, and for the old, that's the reminder, right? So they can be as simple as they want, but then they could be, a little bit more tricky. To my point about MJG being a little bit more abrasive, it pulls him to do some reaches sometimes. And as a writer, I know what that looks like. You're just kind of like, brown, down, sound, wow, and then you got to catch yourself, be like, nigga, you got to finish this verse. You can't just, so like, when I think of she's under the covers, she'll F your red brother, your black brother, your dead brother, she ain't scared, bro. Like, it just sounded like he was getting caught up in it, because it's like, wait, what are you saying? Like, all this just to say that she's a pro.
Yeah, well, right.
Your dead brother. So like, this reaches like that. He also, for no reason on Get It Crunk, he starts so I don't care if you big breasted or you got molested. I'm like, brother, you're just getting lost in a rhyme now. It's a party song. Why did you take it? Right? So it's just like, okay.
His pen get a mind of its own, man, at that point.
Yeah. So I mean, that's kind of the impression that leaves. He's more liable to do those reaches. And with abrasive language, but there's just moments of just cleverness, and in the next dimension, I guess we'll talk more like where their cleverness lies, because it's not so much in similes, metaphors, and entendres. They're not those rappers,
right?
They're not afraid to use humor. They're not afraid to use inflection, and maybe even onomatopoeia. I heard 8Ball say something like "ba-bump" in the middle of we don't give her. So they use those things.
Yeah.
What we giving them for wordplay and bar intent?
Man, I think I'm gonna go 4. Just because, like you said, they're not going to be super complicated over your head. But I like that what they're saying is clear. Clarity is a big thing for me when I listen to music. Even if you're not saying the most like craziest thing, but it like you're clear. Whereas some of the new age, and I'm on some get off my line shit, but some of the new age, that's kind of muffled, kind of the jaws aren't really opening. It's not that like that. When I have to listen too hard to hear what you're saying, and then you're not really saying nothing clever, or that just pisses me off. So it was good hearing, because it's been a while since I listened to this. Ever since I ran this when I did the 8-Ball MJG albums ranked video, but it had been I hadn't listened to it since then. So it was good to hear the clarity in the bars and the flow. I threw Daylight, one of my favorite joints. I think he said, just because the nigga think I'm a celebrity, they want to rob and jack and try to bury me. You know what I'm saying? Forced entry embedded in my memory, fighting sleep like Freddy Krueger trying to get me. Like, that's not anybody can read that and understand what it's saying, but it's very like, again, it's very poetic. So it's just, I don't know, man. It's just something special, man. They're a special duo.
Yeah, what you hit on is exactly the other part of the name of the dimension. If it's not wordplay, it's bar intent. They're very intentional.
There you go.
Right. So then I think you said some things that foreshadow this next dimension. We'll jump into it. Dimension 6.
Good.
The overall quotability, which either falls in punchlines or poetic wisdom. So we established they're not punchline rappers. Matter of fact, the closest you get to a punchline is Big Duke on Belly. He said, "Don't try me, you end up unfindable." That's probably as close as you get to a punchline right here. But poetic wisdom, they're so rich in that. You talked about Ball's verse on We Started This. In that verse, he says, "Born, dying every minute. Death is getting closer to me." Like, what a line. And he's not a death and doom and gloom rapper, but like I said, there's a melancholy to Ball where he slips some of that in every verse.
Yeah, I like the following line on that one too. It says, "Life is like a movie, except I'm feeling everything." Yeah. Like, and I don't even know if that necessarily rhymed. Now that I'm thinking about it, the pattern was a little bit off, but it just hit though.
Yeah.
But you got to hear it though. Like, I can see someone hearing this for the first time and maybe it going over their head just a little bit because of that. But it's like, nah, listen to what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got Pac behind you. It kind of reminds me a lot what Pac used to do.
Yeah.
Like, listen to what he's saying, and you know what I mean? It's like,
and how he's saying it. Yeah, by this point in the game, they're establishing that they're veterans, they're legends, they're OGs, and they've grown into their weathered voices. There's a Southern OG and wisdom to their voices. And I guess maybe that's why it disappoints me so much when MJG does all that animated stuff, because I'm like, your voice alone demands respect, and what you're saying has a gravitas to it because it's coming from a weathered, tested voice. You could tell. Right.
They were veterans at the time. In '99, they were vets.
Yeah, they were vets, and they got a huskiness to both of their voices. And you can tell they lived through this. And so if he's lamenting on death, it's probably because, he's really put some thought into his own mortality a couple times. And he's not trying to depress you, but he's just like, hey, it's like, I think about what he says on Love Hurts. He's talking about, my choices. I probably should have chose some different things because I went through a lot of shit that I shouldn't have had to go through. Even Cee-Lo's hook on Paid Dues. He's like, my mom and pops was too young to raise me right. Like, that's some honesty you don't hear in hip hop.
Yeah, man. And now but everybody, not everyone, but a lot of people can relate to. But like you said, that's not the cool thing to say, or whatever the case may be. And it's vulnerability that, like you said, you don't really see too often. But when you hear it, it hits though, and it sticks, and it's impactful.
Right. When the difference between Ball and G, I guess the main difference is MJG has to be focused to be as poignant and profound as Ball is on his just regular verses.
I agree.
MJG's probably his most profound is Paid Dues, because everything he's saying touches on something there's a vulnerability there. Like I said, from the start of it, he says, in the middle of doing crime, it never stopped me from writing rhymes. It never stopped me from playing music. God put it in me. I had to use it. It was obvious. I had to give up the streets for the beats. Man, again, something else you don't hear rappers saying. Most rappers saying, I ain't never want to rap. I was just doing crime. But it's like, no. I did crime, but that wasn't what I was trying to do. I was trying to rap. I was better at rap than that crime. Like, I love that honesty. If you're going to be a street-based rapper, give me the real. Don't act like you super nigga here, right?
Yeah, like you just tripped up. You just woke up one day and decided to rap, and now you on. Like, because the following line is, before I made it. No, he said, not knowing but having faith on just how long it would be.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and they sprinkle,
bro.
They sprinkle in the God talk here and there too. Like that's another hallmark of Southern rappers. They talk crazy, but then they'll throw God in it, to the point where you look at Scarface, the same man that was talking about the craziest shit on his early albums will threaten you over the Bible on his later albums.
Yeah, that's even if you listen to some. I remember when David Banner described his music, he described it as a Bible with a Playboy cover. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like that's and again, that's a big Southern thing, church, all of that good stuff, Bible Belt, all of that. So yeah, that's definitely woven in.
Yeah, the poetic wisdom is all over this album. Ball might hit you with a punchline, trying to see rocks like Barney Rubble, but
yeah,
MJG, again, this is when he's not focused, he'll give you a line like, a turd in the hand is far worse than a turd in the commode. Let that shit float on, because that shit get old. It's clever, but it ain't
right.
But I don't know. Is that a saying? Have you ever heard that?
I haven't. No, that might be some Memphis talk. That might be some pimp talk. One of which I am neither. So I don't know.
Right. That's the other thing. Like when Ball is talking at the end of, I think it's the end of Daylight, and he's like, "Yeah, y'all don't even know. We was pimping before we came out. We're coming out hard. We were pimping across the states. We connect." That's when he goes into his whole connected. So it's like they want you to know they've lived this stuff, and in that they've got reflective material as a result. There's things, there's regrets there. There's things they want their credit for. There's again, concern about how long they got to live, and acknowledgement that they're susceptible like anybody else. If somebody want to get them got. But they ain't gonna go out without a fight.
There you go.
So yeah, I love what you were saying before about Ball being able to read his stuff as poetic, just prose. What you giving this for the overall quotability on this album?
Man, I'm gonna say a 4 as well, mainly because, like I said, the clarity. You don't have to squint when you listen to see what it is they're saying. However, the way some things are said, it may go over your head the first time. You know what I mean? So it's just, especially with we started this with a beat is so it's got the bounce to it, but you don't realize what he's saying. Like you may have to run it back a couple of times for that. But so that's the only reason I say 4.
Oh, I wanted to say, because you said you don't have to squint when you listen to it. That's man, that's I couldn't put it better. Because I knew exactly what you meant. Even though you squint with your eyes, it's that audible squint that happens. You're like, huh? Dimension 7, the concepts. With the exception of the 2 stories, I'm trying to think, do they have any straight up concepts other than that?
Not necessarily, unless you just want to go with the origin story on Paid Dues. But I mean, nothing like super imaginative. No, meet the parent story. No rewind where something is backward. You know what I mean? It's nothing to that extent.
Right.
I think they're capable, but it's not on here. Yeah,
just not on this album. Because you could argue that the concept of space age pimping is a concept.
True. Bingo.
Yeah. So let's take the 2 stories into account, even though we'll talk about them on their own. But if you put those 2 together, that's more than enough conceptual material for a 14-track, 13-song album.
Exactly.
They didn't have to do those songs.
Bingo.
They chose to do it, and they chose to end the album. Hey. So all right. So what you giving is for conceptual material from 1 to 5?
I'll give it a 3.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, that takes us to the content dimensions. Our first is dimension 8, externalized content. What topics are they talking about? just environmentally, like outside of autobiographical stuff. Like they talk about life, they talk about politics, they talk about relationships, the hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
One
nothing.
thing-
It's nothing. No stretches here. It's pretty straightforward. But again, I think it works for this album, especially with a 13-track project. Like it works. It doesn't overstay its welcome. When you getting into the 20s and the 22 tracks, that's when you kind of got to go with you got to get real imaginative at that point, or it's gonna be stale.
Yeah.
No matter how good the joints are. So I think
even if you go past 14.
That's true. Yeah, really, honestly.
Because they do this thing that a lot of good rappers do, where they blend pieces of content into their braggadocio songs. So like you think of We Started This, everything you were saying about it is true. Ball is it's their reintroduction song. It's that we're back as a group after our solo albums.
Yep.
Also, let us remind you who we are in this industry. And then in MJG's verse, he's mentioning the James Burden thing, where that man got dragged because he's talking about the Confederacy existence in the southern states. Even though they're rapping about Memphis, they're saying, look, we're from the South where this still happens.
Yep.
Right? So those things happen throughout. I think about on Nobody But Me, Love Hurts, even parts of Daylight. MJG will say stuff like, you gotta feed your family, I gotta feed mine too.
Yep.
There's those real sentiments, and 8Ball's talking about death here and there throughout. So it's sprinkled in there, but then there's songs that are deliberately about things like Don't Flex is a strip club pimp type song, so that's topical. They don't really deviate from that. Paid Dues, very topical. They stay on track with that. Love Hurts, they stay on track with that. That's a reflection song. So they have their pockets, and a good artist is able to do that where you're not like, what was that song about?
Yeah, there you go.
So it may not be the deepest content, but it's there.
Agreed. It can, like you said, it can be surface level, but it's still identifiable, right? You're not lost in the like, wait, hold on, where how do we end up here? Right. You're not on that type of time, right? Or kind of the newer age cats where a song is named something completely different than what the actual, you know what I mean? Like you're like, wait, what?
Right.
Why is this called hibachi rice? You know what I mean? Like it's like what? So it's just, it's kind of stuff like that, man. But
right. Dimension 9 is the internalized content. How much of themselves are they giving us? We mentioned they're vets in the game by now, 4 albums deep on the mainstream, 5 if you count that first one. You're still learning stuff about them. Again, like I said, even in the talking part, 8Ball wants you to know we was pimping before we came out. And I think he means literally pimping.
Oh, yes.
And just little things like that. Paid Dues. Maybe you didn't know that story, but they come up beforehand. They still have stories about themselves to tell.
Yeah, man, and like you said, even on Paid Dues, like you said, in the middle of doing crime, it never stopped me from writing rhymes. Like it's those type of the internal joints on here. Like I said, those B-side, the Daylights, the Paid Dues, the Nobody But Me's, like those type of, and those are some of my favorite types of hip hop.
Me too.
Especially when it comes from a street perspective. I just think they sound the best in my opinion.
Yeah, Ball is talking about planting the seed. Like, hey, my part is done. Hopefully, my seeds could do better than me. So you're getting those expository moments. I agree with everything you just said, man. And it's a skill, because a lot of rappers run on fumes by this point in their career. They're still giving you new stuff.
Yeah, man.
So what would you give this on a scale from 1 to 5 for the external and then for the internal?
External, I'll go 4. Internal, I'm gonna go 5.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
The gem of also being older in the game is that you have more perspective now. You're not as reckless as moments they still have on this album. They still have that wisdom creeping in as well.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Final dimension in category 2, dimension 10, the storytelling. All right. So we touched on these a second ago. You have 2 stories on here that are straight up stories, even though there's narrative elements on other songs. These are songs that are distinctly going from a starting point and an ending point, and have vignettes. So Armed Robbery is a callback to their classic song from their debut album, Coming Out Hard. Same name. They didn't put like Armed Robbery 99 or Armed Robbery Part 2. It's just them introducing the new class of Swap House, and everyone tells their own version of Armed Robbery. That's why I said vignettes. Which is very cool of Ball and G to do, because they do what Wu-Tang does. They're not even on the song. They might talk.
Right.
Tony Draper doing the outro, and they're like, yeah, we did it before, we can do it again. Let the new class take over.
Yeah.
But then they're like, we're so good, we can give that song away because we're going to give you another Armed Robbery.
Yep.
We're going to give you Speed, which is our 99, like, not, I don't want to say version, but it's just like, hey, it's our 99 submission for us still being able to tell these kind of heist, caper, fast-paced cinematic stories.
Yeah. They were still dope. And who knew Gilly the Kid? It's funny looking back, right? You look back and you go, it's kind of like watching an old movie. You're like, oh shit, look at so-and-so.
Samuel L. Jackson. Wow.
Yeah, you're like, oh shit, that's XYZ. So it's kind of funny looking back, because I mean, I remember Gilly from Major Figures, but I think that was later than 99, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
that was like early 2000, 03 or something.
Yeah, so he must have been signed. I guess he was briefly signed to Swap. Gilly's moved around more labels.
Gilly was nice though, like he could spit.
Yeah. You
know what I mean? But so I thought that was cool listening to that. But I do rock with those. But I'm gonna be honest, those are, specifically speaking to the stories, those are two of the ones I revisit the least on this project. To me, they have the least amount of replay value, or two of the least amount of replay values personally, just because I don't like the tempo of Speed as it relates to Ball and G. I get the concept, obviously.
So it sounds like in the pantheon of rap storytelling, this ain't gonna rank high on the scale from 1 to 5 for you.
Nah. I'm gonna do a 2 out of respect.
Yeah.
You know,
everything can't be a 5.
Yeah, you're right. No. Gotta be objective.
So on that note, that concludes the category 2 review of the classic In Our Lifetime by 8 Ball and MJG, Tennessee's own. Can you let the people know what y'all got cooking for Culturalist Theory, and with you, CJ, if you got any individual projects on the way?
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it. Culturalist Theory on YouTube is the channel. We have a new show that we're going to be highlighting content creators. We're in Atlanta, and we know how tricky it is being a content creator. I'm sure you can speak to the uphill climb it can feel like sometimes. And so we wanted to pick 6 people to come and do a show that we're going to highlight. It's called Vinyl Answer. It's really dope, man. We'll be shooting in about a week or 2, and hopefully get that out around June or July. And just show some love, dog. We're in Atlanta. There's a lot of people making content, a lot of people trying to get out here, but it's tough to break through. So it's like, yo, let's do a show highlighting those people. We get some sneaker content people, some models, some, whatever, makeup. We got a little something from everybody, man. So just stay tuned to that. Culturalist Theory on IG is the platform, man. Just follow us, tap in.
You don't know how. I mean, I'm sure you do, but I mean, I can't underscore how dope that is, because that's something you didn't have to do. Y'all did not have to do that. And shout out to QB.
Yeah, that's my dog.
Yeah. So it's like, that's how you know you're living the dream. Basically, you got your space where you wanted it to go, and it's still growing. Yep. And to reach back out while you're still growing and say, hey man, we can put other folk on. That's
man. It's tough, man. Like we get out a lot, we move around a lot, and people, bro, it's tough to break through, man. People still trying to get their first 1,000 on YouTube, bro. Like, it's a challenge. It's you know what I mean? Like, that stuff is and we're learning every day. Like, I ain't got all the answers by no means, but I've learned a thing or two in the last year or two. And so it's like, yo, like, let's meet some people in the city, get them on the platform too. It's gonna be fun, man. I think people are really gonna enjoy the content, man. You'll get to know other people, and then you get to be a fan of somebody. We're fans, bro. Like, you know what I mean? We're fans of people that make dope shit. Right. So we want other people to discover new fans, because I'm always looking for some new stuff to watch or to take in. And so hopefully you can discover be a fan of somebody else's stuff, bro, after this.
Right. I love that, man. And more power to y'all. Shout outs to everything y'all do.
Respect, bro.
I've been singing the gospel cultural hysteria since before we did our first mashup. So we keeping it going.
Thank you, man.
Till next time, y'all know what it is. F for Rap Critic. They talk about it while I live it. Word to meth.